Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of SmallEngineVelocity, and today's video has to do with the Facebook Marketplace Ruckus. We are going to go ahead and do a couple of things to it today. We are going to go ahead and work in the CVT and change the clutch spring so that it engages at a higher RPM. I'll explain later why. We will also replace the seat frame to a lower one. I know that people will think that that's an aesthetic mod, but more for me, it is a speed mod because it's going to take you down a little bit from sticking above the handlebars to keep you from creating all that wind friction. But believe me, it has speed mods in mind. And then of course, we're gonna do the get a TACH on here. We're gonna go ahead and put a tachometer on here. If you've watched any of my previous old videos, I think this one right here, and it's pretty old, one of the best mods you can do if you are tuning your Ruckus to go faster is to go ahead and put a tachometer on there. Tachometer, well, you know what? I'll explain it later in the video. Anyways, before we begin, let's go ahead and roll that intro. All right, so let me give you a quick tour of what we're gonna do. First, the pink springs. Yes, these springs are Yamaha springs, but they have been tested by others long before I got here for a better and higher RPM engagement with the best result that you'll get for takeoff on here. If it engages higher, that means your motor gets to spool up faster before it actually engages in moving the rear wheel, therefore giving you a better takeoff when you're moving. I also got the same seat frame as I have on the orange Ruckus. It's the same as the orange Ruckus that I've had since the beginning of time on that one. It sits further back and it sits lower on there. Now, whether or not it'll fit with stock plastics on it, the description says that it will. I don't believe it, but we're gonna go ahead and put that on today. And then if you look here, you have my old tachometer from when I was a Get. Long time ago. I put it on one of my 3D printed mounts, but it doesn't really hold very well. Sorry, it cracked on me a couple of times, and when you watch the video later on, you'll see that it cracked on me. But the point is that I'm going to put a tachometer on here so that we can see what we're engaging and seeing if I'm hitting the top RPM for the rev limiter. So first things first, whenever you all right, just like every time you work in the CVT, I know this is gonna get pretty old, but the first thing you do is take the CVT cover off and all the bazillion 8mm nuts that are on there. Is it 8 or 10? I think it's 8mm nuts. Take all those out, then you take your 14mm and you take off the clutch nut that holds the clutch on, and then the 17mm nut that holds the drive face on so that you can move the band off. And then you should be able to remove the drive face and the belt all at the same time. Now, after further inspection of the clutch, you will notice that there are springs in there, and there are only 2. Be careful, in a GY6 there's 3, in this one there's 2, because there's only 2 large pads on there. These springs are a certain strength, I suppose, that can resist centrifugal force, and the stronger the spring, the faster it can spool before those pads come flying out. And that's what we're doing today. We're putting stronger springs. They just happen to be pink Yamaha springs that all the people before me have tested and said are wonderful, which by the way, I sell on my site, so I'll leave a link below. So what I did, and what I always do, is I have some angled needle nose pliers. You can do it with regular ones too. Just grab the spring and you'll have to pull it and unhook it from one side. You don't have to worry about the second one just yet. When you unhook the first side, it allows you for the pad to move, and then you'll have better access to the second spring. Now, if you look at the spring, they're all the same shape, so unlike the one that came out, there's a longer and shorter side. On this one, it doesn't really matter. You should be able to hook it on there and be just fine. So the next step is to take the pink spring and go ahead and hook it onto one side using the needle nose pliers. Once you get one side hooked on, try to close the pads as close as you can so that you don't have such a large gap to cover, and you should be able to stretch and hook the spring onto the other side. Make sure that it's hooked up well. I've seen situations where you could hook it, but it's partially hooked. It's not all the way over the loop. You want to make sure that you get it fully over that loop or it's going to fly off. You're going to struggle with this, trust me. Just be patient and you should be able to get it taken care of pretty after a little while. Another thing I like to do is as soon as I take the clutch out and before I put it back in, take a little bit of light sanding to the pads. Please don't like grind the pads down. I mean, the whole point of the pads is that they have life on them. You don't want to wear it down too much. Just get the glaze off of the pad so that more of the material is hitting the clutch bell. I also like to sand the inside of the clutch bell a little bit just to clean it up and give it a little bit better adhesion. Yes, it will polish again after a while, but for at least a little bit, you're gonna have the absolute best contact inside of there. Now for the seat, I thought this was gonna be an easy install. I forgot how hard it was because it's 2 pieces and you can get them backwards, which I got backwards several times. I just didn't include it in the video. You may be able to catch a few scenes where it's backwards and then the next scene it's right ways again. So first thing you need to do is take off the 4 bolts that hold the super tall seat down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 on each side, very easy to do. On this particular Ruckus, it was missing a bunch, so I went ahead and bought some Allen head stainless steel bolts for this. I prefer Allen head bolts on pretty much everything on the Ruckus because it makes things easier to reach. And then also at the same time, it looks really cool. So the seat is held onto the hinge with 2 bolts. You can take those 2 bolts and then you should be able to remove the seat fairly easily. It just comes right off after that. The hard part is now you have to take the hinges off. The hinges are held on with a Phillips screw. You'll have to unscrew the Phillips screw, and the hinge piece is not like it's just a piece of metal. You're gonna have to bend it and take it off. It feels awkward because you're bending a piece of metal rather than, you know, it looks like it's supposed to come off or like a clamp of some sort, but yes, it will bend. It is okay. Also make note that there are collars underneath that you're gonna need to take off. Remember their position on there because you might be able to put it back together. You'll have to be able to put it back together under the new bars on there. And then take inventory of the collar and all the pieces that you have in there, including the brackets and the screws. I've done this before and accidentally stepped on some stuff and had to repurchase pieces because I was just an idiot and I didn't put it off the side and left it on the ground to step on. You may be wondering about the seat lock. So here's the seat lock on stock Ruckus. Normally people will open it, they'll put the D-ring inside of there and lock it so they don't have to carry their helmet inside of a building with them whenever they get there. But in this particular case, it doesn't fit with the stock plastics on this seat. It doesn't fit. And it doesn't really matter for me at the same time also because it's an aftermarket key. So I don't have a key for that particular seat lock anyway. So no loss for me. Besides, I never really leave my helmet outside because it's got cameras and comms and all sorts of stuff on top of it. So I never leave it out because people could just pull those things off and steal them. So let's go ahead and put it back together. You're gonna have to put the collars on the seat frame. When you put the collars on, make sure they lock in the particular position, and then you're gonna wanna put the hinge back on. And then once you get the hinge back on, before you start tightening bolts down, be sure to put it next to the seat to make sure that the hinges are facing the right way, because you can put them on backwards. And then you're just gonna have to take everything apart again and then put it back together again. So that sucks. Avoid that. Do some test fitting before you have to put it back on. Like I said, I put stuff on backwards several times during this installation, but they were edited out, so I don't look like too much of an idiot making this video. So the listing for this says that it fits with stock everything. It's just plug-in. So the listing for this says that it fits a stock Ruckus with plastics and everything. That is a falsehood on this. If you're considering the seat frame, know that you can't use the lock, the helmet lock. When you put it on, it's not going to close the seat correctly. You're gonna have to force it down and bend a little bit of plastic underneath it to get it to be able to close all the way down. It is not plug and play like it said. So if you don't mind having to finagle things a little bit or maybe even cut some holes in your plastic, it won't fit. If you look here, you can see some of the the plastics are way too close to the things and they're actually pushing down on them to be able to shut the seat. For me, this is fine. Eventually I'll probably cut a hole in it or something to make it fit properly, but not right now. And then lastly, here is a little bit of me climbing onto the Ruckus while it's on the rack, kind of give you an idea of how it sits. It definitely sits further back and down. Ideally, this is probably for tall people who need to sit a little bit further back, whose knees are crushing into the battery box, or perhaps someone who's tall and wants to sit a little bit lower. I don't know. For me, I've already had it on my other Ruckus, so I prefer this type of seating on top of my bike. And to be honest, to me, it looks cool and it is functional for what I want to do, be able to go fast. All right, lastly, my old TACH. Just mount the TACH anywhere you want on the bike. It doesn't really matter. The way a TACH works is you put the TACH, it has a battery inside of it. A wire comes out of it and you take it all the way to the spark plug boot. And at the spark plug boot, wrap it around a few times. It measures through inductive electricity or energy on there to measure the pulses and cycles that's happening when the spark plug is firing. As I told you before, it kind of broke on me in the ride. But anyways, now that we're done, we're gonna go ahead and get our butt on the bike. We're gonna go take it around for a ride for a little bit and kind of give you an idea of how it feels sitting on it and how those springs are working out, and then kind of give you a little demo of the tachometer working. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to the helmet cam. Everybody, we are set with the new parts on the Ruckus. Great, the key fell out again. I gotta do something about that key because I'm eventually gonna drop it if I don't use this tether correctly. Anyway, so what we got right now on the Honda Ruckus is, oh, big bump. Ooh, we got the, what's it called? We got the pink springs for acceleration. Remember, the pink springs aren't for like top end speed, just for takeoff, like when you're sitting at a red light and you got about 100 cars behind you waiting for your little 49cc motor to take off. And then we got the seat, which is lower. One of the few mods that is basically aesthetic, but mostly from my point of view about speed, because I can ninja tuck. And then the what's it called? Then we got the tachometer, which of course is the absolute best mod that you could do on a Honda Ruckus if you're going to do some tuning. So let's kind of do a little bit of a review right now of what's going on here. So the pink springs are for takeoff. When I first did these a while back, you know, I did feel it on the takeoff, and it's better. The theory behind it is that when your clutch for your engagement of your rear wheel will engage at a higher RPM. Once it grabs at that higher RPM, there's a lot more momentum to kick you forward faster. You know, kind of like if you were spinning a wheel and then you're spinning a wheel up in the air and then you put it on the ground. As soon as it hits the ground, it kicks at a certain rate. If you spin it faster, it'll kick harder at a certain rate. So yeah, something like that. I'm gonna fix this camera. There we go. So that's what that is for. Then we have the, what's it called? The seat frame, which, yes, I wanted to lower the seat so that I can get a little bit more aerodynamics. And, you know, instead of feeling like a giant, what's it called? A billboard facing the wind, you know, that's supposed to help with aerodynamics, but, you know, can't exactly say that that is true, but I mean, it makes sense. If less of you is sticking out of the top of the bike, that you'll get better aerodynamics. And then, of course, the tachometer, which obviously is for the specific purpose of being able to watch the RPM rate, how high my engine is revving whenever I am trying to test different size weights inside. Heavier weights push the variator out, causing the engine to have to work harder and engage at have a different RPM. So I think this is I don't remember what year this is, but it's definitely not brand new. But remember that I think the red line on the up to 2005s was 86,000 RPM, and then on the after that, all other ones are 88. So currently I'm at 80. Oh wow, I'm at 88. Oh, I'm bouncing off of 88. Whoa, bro. Yeah, you know what? I still have to work on the drum brake issue. It's not much of an issue, but I just need to refurbish them or something to get them to stop. Yeah, that or that's just the way drum brakes work, because it's been a long time since I've had drum brakes. So I'm able to hit 8800 RPM on here, so I'm pretty sure these 5-gram weights are giving me as much speed as I could possibly get out of them. So probably would alternate some 5.5s or even try 6s. As far as this lower seat frame, you would imagine that it's a little bit weird for me to sit on here because the way it's sitting, like my feet aren't to the side, my feet are in front of me, so it's more like my knees are in my chest when I'm sitting. So it's not like if my feet were to the side, perhaps it would be better. And then lastly, the pink springs, obviously I can feel it engaging at a higher RPM, and then now with the tachometer I can see it engaging at a higher RPM. So there we go, everybody. Oops, I left my signal light on like I always do. I wish they had a cancel button on here, but apparently they don't have a cancel button. Alright, this guy's turning right. And now I'm going to turn right, and we're going to try to get a little bit of a... Oh, I forgot my phone, and... Oh, well, you know what? I got a GPS on the Insta360, so let's see if we can get a speed test out of that one before we end the video. I think every video that we're going to do with the Marketplace Ruckus, we're going to do a speed test. Once you hit the railroad tracks, it causes the camera to bounce. And bumpity. There we go. Alright, here we go. Alright, here's the speed test. I have no idea how fast I'm going, so hopefully it's showing in the screen, and I'm using the 360 camera. We are currently running at 8400 RPM, 86, 85. Oh, the wind's blowing heavy against me right now. Alright, I can't run into the back of that vehicle. Anyways, I don't know how fast I went, so hopefully you got to see it on the screen. Next video on the Facebook Marketplace Ruckus, we are going to do some more speed mods. Quite a few speed mods. Anyways, the goal is to get this thing to run as fast as it can, as stock as it can, minus, obviously, the seat. So, let's see if we can build the 50-mile-per-hour sleeper. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see everybody in the next video.